turning our attention to Josh.
Hi guys.
Hey.
Well, thank you for letting me share my story. Sharing my story, the story of myself is something I love to do, so I'm really grateful to do it with you guys, and it's something I've done my whole life. Here, I'll start this. Yeah, this is the first film that I made after my father's death in 2001. There's a lot of examples I have of different stories that I've told about my experience over the years. Another one is this screenplay, 160 pages of, not to be disrespectful to it, just to get the weight of it. That's about my 2001 to 2004. And there's a lot of, because there's a lot of versions of this PCC story, I'll kind of skip through a little bit. And I'm going to be navigating through my website here, which is outsidejosh.com, and the reason for that is because there's a lot of stuff already up there that I can access reasonably easily. So this will be a bit of a visual journey that I'll take you guys on. Come along. So I am grateful because I managed to incarnate with pretty universe-centric parents who cared about soul and spirit, who cared about politics and philosophy and ideas and in the environment. When I told Robert McDermott about my upbringing, he said I was more PCC than PCC. And it's around a little bit to Loire or so. And I had a pretty easy childhood. I was encouraged to be creative, to explore my own relationship with the sacred. My father died when I was 18, and I spent a number of years making art about that experience and going into my own sort of history and the stories of the family. And then around 2006 or 2007, I stopped and I went out in the world. I needed to do other people's stories. I needed to focus on what else was happening all around the world, because there's so many different lives being experienced out there. So I went woofing, which is volunteer work on organic farms, and I went from Hawaii to the Philippines, Thailand, and India, and made a movie about that. And that's called Wolf and Wander, and this is the preview for it. And it's mostly organic. It's organic farm-based, but I also had all these experiences at sacred sites that the indigenous families I lived with that mattered a lot to them, and these were places, as I described in the film, where communities were weaving the cycles of life and death into the body of the land in all these different ways. When I got back to the country, all I wanted to do was build a medicine wheel in the woods, go on a vision quest. And I worked pretty heavily, I was involved pretty heavily in the local food world in my hometown. But the way I put it in my PCC goal statement was that I had spent 10 years really doing powerful work with my hands and my heart, and I wanted to add more minds to the mix. I came to PCC, and you know, the first week, every class I was in talked about the soul of the earth, the anima mundi, which was unbelievable because, you know, this was something that I'd experienced. I experienced having conversation and communion with a live, ensouled planet. But this was an environment where not only did you guys believe that, but you also formed a whole program around it. You actually located yourself within an embodied, enchanted cosmology and ecology. So that was pretty amazing. This film here was the first project I did as part of Brian Swoon's Epic the Universe class, and I put together all this footage I'd just been sitting on of all these sacred sites that I had visited, and also combined that in a presentation with asking my classmates to bring in a sacred object. We put together an altar, and it was the first time I'd done anything like that, but it felt so good and clear and calm, and I was chill the whole time and not nervous at all, and it just made me feel like this is what my soul likes doing. and wants to do more of. I've been able to do, in my time here, to focus on some things that really do matter to me on a soul level. And that work, I mean, I think, to give some context astrologically, I started here when I was 28, and I'm going to be 31 when I graduate, so right in my Saturn return, and I have a pretty strong integrated Saturn, as it turns out. So the things that I came here with are the same issues that I've been able to care about and explore further, and I'm emerging still right in there. And I brought them into three, I'm calling them three different things as of today. That would be basing in place. These are things that I've always done, and I expect I always will do, whether it's an academic setting or not. Basing in place as in learning the land, learning the history, learning all the relationships that go on every day there. Cultivating community, sort of work, paying attention to individual and collective growth and health and sort of transformation, and sharing sacred relationships. And that can take a lot of different forms, artistically or food or just conversation. So I've been able to do a lot of that work in different ways here. I'm going to bookend the next 9 minutes or so with two events, one that happened sort of towards the beginning of my PCC time and one that happened towards the end, which I suspect will be pretty important in my whole life. The first one is moving out of my family's house in New Jersey, where I'd grown up. And this was, I'll scroll down as we can look at some pictures. I took about 3,500 photos during these 3 weeks. For me, that land, it's the most, if I'm indigenous from anywhere, this lifetime, that's where I come from. And my family had lived there for 50 years. We had artifacts coming out of the basement from 1860s, Austro-Hungarian Empire, and all of these stories, all of these really, some of them really difficult, traumatic, horrifying stories, emerging and trying to be made aware of and dealt with and moved into a new space. And I can give one example here. This taking down my dad's shelf next to his desk was the hardest thing for me to do during that whole 3 weeks. And within 5 minutes of the whole shelf being dismantled, a big tree fell over and blocked the driveway. And there were a lot of examples like that of these sort of energies emerging into the present in really intense ways. It was good. It was good to have the relationship with my history, with my mom, with my family. But another thing that I realized during this time, and it became compelling to me in the last 2 years since this happened, this is some of my ancestors here, this guy with the mustache, is that there's a lot of people around the world who are forced out of their homes in much more brutal, difficult ways. I had a chance to really be present to all the stories that were ending and beginning, and be present to the artifacts and really do ritual, do that work. And there's a lot of people who don't have that opportunity at all. And climate-based migrants are multiplying by the millions right now. So that work of transforming home, of what that looks like, that's really, really going to be, I think, a major one for me, and I think a major one for a lot of people as we go forward into this century. So doing this, having this experience with my home, one of the things it led to was having to really, what was that? Yeah. Drop into Northern California as my home. So one of the ways that was helped was by the urban permaculture group that PCC was doing, and opportunities to plant on my own and be present to bees and the natural world around me, and increase my ecological awareness in different ways. This is Emily and I visiting Mary Foley's yurt up in Wimbledon and castrating goats, which was a surprise. And just learning the different beings that we live around. This is the last afternoon before the air from Fukushima drifted over the Pacific for the first time. different beings. And this is a baby owl. I spent a couple of weeks up in the woods by my house. And, the other thing about, you can contemplate the land around you, but you can also push at the edges of that, sort of experiment with different, that's Kathy Ann, experiment with different elements and different ways of, that's Josh, who's not here, and different ways of being in this space. And we also have such magnificent, large, old, magical creatures and places around it. This isn't Shasta. I'm actually in the air in that shot. And so just getting a chance to really explore, going into the sacred places here, right around us, and pushing my edges. This is from a backpacking trip with Erin Redding. She always likes to go up to the top of the mountains. And tuning into the sky, that's the Venus transit that we were looking at. And just, that's one of the great benefits of PCC, too, is that we're so oriented to what's happening in the sky and sharing all of that. And just generally sharing magic. This is at Esalen. We are a magical bunch. There's one of them. And there's sacred places all around that we can conduct work at together. So the magic part of it helps really. I have some good images of us being magical. That's Erica Jones. That's Becca. That one's Laura. This is me being nymphy in the woods. And so, we have this immediately around us all the time. It's also true that we have a real political situation at the same time. This is a video. There's great music that goes along with these, but I figured it would be distracting. Of us peacefully shutting down a Wells Fargo branch during the general strike at Occupy. There's a couple of great images from this of us, sort of, it was us rubbing graffiti off of the side of the thing. There's that, and then also, within a few minutes later, we encountered this shattered glass just next door, and this question of violence and how it erupts at different times, depending on how urgent people feel the situation is. That also led to a number of workshops I gave on sort of anti-civilization types who want to bring down, who want a war to save the world. This is a workshop I did where we're acting out the cataclysm of the Mars-sized planet Theia crashing into the primordial Earth to create the moon, which is a good example of cataclysm and violence, but also that yielded water and tides and all the things that we know on our planet. And I'll just quickly sort of say that one of the ways that this is possible to face together is because we have this community. Regardless of what's going on, how bad things look, what's happening out in the world, if you have a group of people that love each other and are looking to take care of one another, then you can get through a lot of things. And especially what's nice about this group is we can be weird together. We encourage each other to, have our unique magical expressions come out. And I think the universe probably likes that. The universe tends to like diversity. And so if you're being weird and you're just, doing your own thing, I think there's a lot to be said for a community that supports that. Finally, the other project, this is us being weird, getting ready for this December 21st event. And that was a wonderful experience because of all these ways that things came in together. And there's a lot more that I could say about that, but it's just being present to worlds that are beginning and ending, the way that we can be as a community, present to the unique place, our unique position on the planet. It was just a magical, perfect day, and all this, in a way, all of these different elements came together. So just to end with some little bit more of me being weird and some of what's emerging for me now. This is, there's our cat right there. This is one of the songs that's emerged for me in the last 6 months, and this is a nice version of it. And then this is the first show I ever did. Okay, and then I have one more version, and that's the final thing, which is this, and you'll see why I decided to do this one in a sec. This is an excellent, same song, and then it's exciting, every bit is exciting. And it's nice because it's interactive. Part of my experience at PCC is getting to the gems of what we're sharing. So, going from long-winded essays and diatribes to getting into poetry and then getting into songs, where you have the same ideas but you can dance them. So I'm going to try to be doing that. I have some projects in mind, and I'll share more of them next week. This next shot is why I wanted to show this. Bubbles, pulses, flashes, where the earth comes out of it, Ryan swims. Hold on, there. So, that's what I do.
Thank you, Jack.